All right, testing, testing. Can you hear me? I have never been a teacher. I do not have a teacher voice, so they had to mic me up. So if you can't hear me, just holler and we'll turn it up. Thank you for being here. This is Grant Writing 101. I am starting at the very basics. So I see some of you out here. I know I've given you grants before, so this may be a little bit basic for you. But we're going to start at the bottom. We're going to work our way up. I am Gretchen Brown. I am Operations Director for the TSIN, the OSLN, which is our Ohio network, and for our national network called STEMX. I have been with this organization for, it'll be 12 years in the fall. And I have been, I'm trying to think of how many years we've had the TVA grants. I can't even remember. But I have been doing our TVA-sponsored STEM grants with the network since the beginning. So I've read a lot of grants. So we're going to start from the bottom, and we're going to work our way up today. So first things first. We know we want some money, but we got to first start about what do we want it for, and what's our idea. So we want to think about what are our long-term goals and what are our immediate needs. We know you need supplies for your classroom. Now, is that something that we can send a list home with the parents and get some of that, or is that something we want to write a grant for? We need to decide from the get-go what are our needs and what do we want to ask for. So if I don't know what I want yet, I just need money. It's hard to write a grant for that, and it's hard to get what we call unrestricted funding. So unrestricted funding is basically, here's money, go do something great with it. And if we could get it all the time, that would be fantastic. It's a little bit hard to get. So we're going to talk about, not so much that, because there's not a lot of it out there, but we're going to talk today about how to get grants. May have some restrictions, but we'll work on that as we get there. The other thing we want to consider when we are starting our approach is what are the rules of our school and our district? So we know that every school and every district is going to be a little bit different. Do they have rules on what you can and can't do? Do they have rules on where you can and cannot receive funding? And do they have rules on what you can do with your students? Are you allowed to take your students into a manufacturing facility to tour and look at those jobs? Before we even start writing, let's consider these things so we don't waste our time. And if we need to talk to representatives from the school, representatives from the district, we'll start there. Here we go. So do we need materials? Are we wanting to fund a field trip? Are we looking to fund a specific project? The thing we want to remember here is that funders are looking to fund ideas, not just things. Ideas, not just things. So what does that mean? All right, I need iPads. I need iPads for my classroom. I know you do, but we're looking for ideas, not just things. So what could that idea be? We'll be doing a water quality study, and we need the iPads for our students to do data collection and analysis. We need a 3D printer. That would be so cool to have in our makerspace. Students will design their own playground equipment. We had a school that did that in Tinkercad. And they're going to use those 3D printers to make our prototypes, do our testing, and learn the engineering design process. I don't just need a 3D printer. I need a 3D printer for this project. Now, this is not your proposal. This is just an idea. And this is to get the wheels turning of drones would be super cool to have. We'll be partnering with a local agriculture survey company that uses drones in their business to look at the growth of crops and analyze nutrient deficiencies. We had a vendor here last year that did that. Very, very cool. So instead of just asking for drones, let's think about how we can build a story around what we're asking for. Now, when that story comes up, again, we talked about our drones. Is there a local connection that we can pull into the story that we're writing for our grant? For example, do we have somebody in our community that uses the drones in their business? Do we have a river in our community that we can use for our grant to test the water quality? Do we have a common concern, a local problem that we can use to write the story for the grant proposal? Again, more ideas, less things. And this is probably preaching to the choir because I know you guys know this, but the other part is where are the local jobs? And who is teaching the students to do the things in the local jobs? Is there a partnership there? Is there an opportunity to partner with the local car manufacturing plant? We have quite a few of those in Tennessee. My notes are terrible, you guys, but I'm going to hang in there. Let's just go to our next one. All right, so where should we apply? I know this is the big one anyway. So where should we apply? So we've got our idea. We're formulating an idea. We know we want iPads. We've got an idea, a story of how we can use those iPads in the classroom. But where do we apply? We've identified the need. We've identified possibly some potential partners. Now we want to know, where are we going to apply? What is the organization? Google is now our best friend. So I did a quick Google search and I found some of these for you guys. You don't need to take a picture of it. I'll give this to you later. And I have some other links for you as well. A lot of these you already know. Donors Choose, GoFundMe, Teachers Pay Teachers, Adopt a Classroom. I think probably all of you have seen those before. Some of these maybe not. So we have, I literally Googled, you guys, and I found Aldi. Did you know that Aldi has grants for educators? Walmart has grants for educators. Who has Casey's in their community? Casey's is a gas station type quick serve. They have grants in their communities in Tennessee. Target has a gift card. Now, Target used to have a field trip program. It looks like that's been discontinued, but they do have a gift card program. I found these in 5 minutes. I have links for you also for later that has all kinds of lists of places to go. But literally, Google is your best friend. I'm sure you guys have all done this before. So we started here. So we have our crowdsourcing. And then we have our businesses, our foundation. That kind of bleeds into the nonprofit because most of these businesses are nonprofit foundations that are doing their giving for them. But some other of the nonprofits that we found, the Kids in Need Foundation, they do supplies. So if we're trying to write a grant for supplies, this might be one where you can skip directly to the supplies. They supply classroom items for schools all over the country. NEA Foundation, that's the National Education Association. The AAE is the Association of American Educators. NCTM, National Council of Teachers in Mathematics. Can we click on Walmart? So I want to pull this one up because I think this is a really good example of what we're seeing when we start looking at the specifics of some of these. So what you're going to see first is your eligibility checklist. We don't want to start writing the grant if we don't know if we're eligible for it. So we're always going to start here. We see K through 12, public, nonprofit, private school. So okay, we're good. So far, so good. If we go to our next section, areas of funding. This is something you guys might see with our TVA grants. We have specific areas of funding that the funder prefers to put their money towards, things that are important to them, things that are important to the communities where they're found. Walmart does the same thing. So if we have a project that fits into these, this may be an amazing place for you to apply for this particular project. If your project does not fit into one of these, you're going to waste your time because this is where they want to put their money. The next section, they're giving you tips. They're giving you hints. They're telling you exactly the kinds of things that they're looking for. Okay, we can go back to the other one real quick. Thank you. All right. I think it skipped a... All right, okay. So what is more difficult? Finding a funder for your project or writing a project for the funder? You can do it either way. It's completely up to you. There might be times when you look at Walmart and they are involved in environment and they say we love funding environment and you need iPads. And so maybe we go back to our example about the water in the community and testing the water. We can write to the grant or we can find a grant that will pay for the project we already have in mind, the things that we already want. It goes either way, it's completely up to you. Personally, I think it's harder to write to the grant. But if you've got the ideas, go for it. So going back, and again, thinking about the Walmart example that we saw, we want to make sure before we start writing, our K through 12 entities eligible, our private schools eligible if we're one of those, our faith-based institutions eligible. Sometimes they're not. Our pre-K programs eligible. Let's look at the eligibility. Let's look at the grade levels. Is this an elementary school? And we're in a high school, so they're only wanting to give money to the younger grades right now. Then we want to look at when are proposals due? If you've ever done the Google search and looked at a lot of these things, you're going to see it all over the place. Maybe it's once a year. Maybe it's twice a year. Maybe it's completely open all the time. Maybe you have to be invited. Sometimes you have to be invited. Sometimes they want you to send a letter of intent. I intend to apply for this money. And they will come back and say, yes, you may apply for this money. Or you know what, no, not this time. So this goes back to research, research, research. There is so many details out there, and every single one of these is completely different. And we absolutely do not want you to waste your time because we know how valuable that is. So we say, read the guidelines and then read them again. The example I can give you from the TVA grants that we do that sponsors with the TSIN, there are very basic things on our website about eligibility that I cannot believe that someone put their heart and soul into writing this proposal and didn't realize that TVA says we can't fund furniture, for example. And so it is an amazing project, but unfortunately, since they've included furniture, it's disqualified. So if we don't read it thoroughly and read it thoroughly again, we could spend a lot of time on something that's unfortunately just going to be disqualified right out of the bat. The other thing that I suggest, and I feel like we get this a lot because I can tell, I was just talking to TVA yesterday and I said, it doesn't really matter how long we have the window open for proposals, I'm gonna get them all on the last day. And that's okay. It could be you've been working on it this entire time. It's been open for 2 months, been working on it the entire time. I'm changing and I'm thinking and fine. Please do that. We do not recommend writing it on the fly and submitting it the same day. When you do that, I find a lot of typos, a lot of misspellings, and a lot of not quite thought out thoughts. And it could be the best idea in the world, and I really, really want to fund it, but if it's not completely fleshed out, unfortunately, I can't. So I highly recommend we know when our deadlines are, we set ourselves a timeline, and we give ourselves some time. Get it in the last minute, that's fine, but let's work on it a little bit before the deadline. All right, read the guidelines. Read them again. It's easy to be disqualified by not following instructions. Another thing that I see a lot, and I suspect a lot of these other funders do as well, is templates. We probably gave you a specific template. Maybe it's for a budget. Maybe it is for, it could be for anything. Some of these grants are even going to give you specifics. I want you to use Arial 11.5. It should be 1-inch margins. They will get very, very specific. We could have the best grant in the world, but if we missed and we sent that in Comic Sans MS, they are not going to read it. So read it again, maybe read it a third. It's very easy to get disqualified if we didn't read all the instructions. All right, so we have an idea. We're thinking of a story. We've found a funder we like. It fits with our ideas. We're getting ready to finally write the grant. Think like a funder. I want you to get into my brain, and I want you to think, Gretchen is going to read 100 grant applications today, maybe more. There was a time, fortunately, I don't have to read all of them. I have helpers to help me do that, but I'm going to read probably 30 or 40, 50 at a time. Think like the funder. if they ask a specific question, make your answer easy to find because they're about to read 30 more, or maybe you're at the end and they just read 50 of them. If they have to go hunting for the answer to a very specific question, they're going to give up quickly and they're going to give you a lower score for it. They're likely using a rubric. You guys know rubrics. The way that we have it set up for our TVA grants, insider info for you, is I have a question, and I have my rubric that scores it, and they go side by side when one of my scores go in there. So the question, the score. So if you kind of answered it here, and they can't really see the answer, they're going to give you maybe a 2 out of 10 for that section. But maybe you hit that point 3 questions down in a different question. They're not going to go back. I see the answers down here, but they've already scored this section where we asked that question. It was buried somewhere else. I see that a lot, and it breaks my heart. Because again, I have to read 75 of these today. So think like a funder, make it easy. Think about the rubrics that you're using in your classroom, and realize that they're probably using a simpler rubric to score your proposal. One more point there. Characters and word limits, guys. They are there for a reason because I have to read 1 million of those in one day. So if they have a character or word limit, pay attention. You don't have to write, if they only want 5 sentences, you only have to give them 5 sentences. Spend your time on the next question. They mean it. Oh, I keep doing it. There we go. All right, so this is kind of a little bit of a recap, but these are some things that we're going to consider when we're finally getting ready to put together this proposal. Some of these things we've talked about already. The requirements, so very, very important. The budget. We need to be specific, but we don't need to be too specific. I don't need to know that you're going to buy 5 pencils, 6 rolls of tape, and 2 reams of paper. I need to know that you're going to buy office supplies. What are our learning objectives? We have a fantastic idea, but there's more to it than that. There's our learning objectives, and there's our evaluation. How are we going to show success? Walmart wants to give money, and they want to give you more money next year if they can. So we want to show the success. We want to show, okay, we know we have the project. These are the things we want to accomplish, and this is my plan to know if I accomplish them or not. Be creative. Again, they're funding ideas and not things. So if you just ask for iPads, that's not very creative. They see that a lot. So make yourself stand out and show that you're the innovative STEM teachers that you are, and be creative, and be unique. If I get, and it happened one year, we had a vendor, I think they sold robotics, great vendor, and they found our application online, and they wrote really great answers to every single question, and then they sent it out to all the teachers. And I got like 36 applications that were exactly the same. They were very well written, and it was a great application, but I can't score that. I can't score, it's competitive. So how am I going to score you against you when you've turned in the exact same thing? So make sure it's unique. If it's not unique, unfortunately, you're going to get disqualified. Establish your timeline, write clearly, please proofread, ask a friend to look it over for you. All right, so those are the basic tips. We started from the bottom and worked our way up. Now, once it's submitted, we have to wait. It's torture. But what I want to do next, while we're waiting for the submissions we just sent in, is talk a little bit specifically about the TVA, TSIN STEM grants. This past year, we had 448 applicants for $1.9 million. We had $1 million to give away. $1 million. Amazing. And TVA is trying to get us a little more for next year, so we're super excited. But unfortunately, I was only able to fund about half of them. Can we click on, thank you. Okay. I can't give you my rubric straight up, but I basically have. This is on the TSIN website. When you go to fill out your application, this is on there. tsin.org/classroom grants. This is my rubric, you guys. I've given it to you. And as, for example, when I flipped through the Walmart one, it was on there too. It was just like this. They didn't give you the rubric, but they gave you tips, they gave you tricks, and they're telling you right here what they're looking for. This is what I'm looking for. These things have points in our rubric. Can you go to the next one for me? No, actually, we started at the, yep, there we go. Here's the process. Here are the guidelines. Read them 3 times. Read them and read them and read them again. Because if you have the best idea in the world and you've thrown in some professional development, unfortunately, that's one of the things that TVA does not fund, because they have a different program that funds professional development. I can't email you back and say, hey, you've got this great idea, but you've got this little bit of PD in here for $250. Can you take that out? I've got 448 of these to read. So unfortunately, you're disqualified. So I cannot stress it enough. Read it and read it and read it again. All right, so what I want to do next, you can go ahead and back to the slides. Talked a little bit about this, but there's nothing better than let's just look at some and let's discuss. So we're going to play a game. The game is called Was It Funded or Not? It's a very exciting game. All names have been changed for privacy. None of these were from Tennessee. They were from other states. TVA does fund a little bit of grants in other states. You take one, just pass them down. So we're going to play, do we have enough there, I think? Was it funded? Was it not funded? So go ahead and take a look at example number 1. It's pretty quick. Now remember, we're thinking like a funder. This is the 50th one of these you've read today. Are you reading every word very, very, very carefully? Probably not, but we're going to do our best. So go ahead and take a look. If we can't, yep. What you see up here now are the tips and tricks that we showed you that are on our website. These are actually the questions on our rubric. So you, thinking like a funder, this is what you're looking at. And I apologize that there's so much on there. People at home, if you go to, could you run it back real quick, one more for me? Oh, I could do it, I'm sorry. Hold on. People at home. bit.ly, Grant Example Summit 23. You can grab the document that we're all looking at. All right, example number 1. We got the gist? All right, show of hands. Did they get funded? Yes? Yes? Did they get funded? No? Show of hands? Well, okay. Question number 1. What's the name of the program, project, or class the funds will support? We encourage you to be creative. What did he name his project? He did not even read the question. So right off the bat, he is losing points for creativity. And I'm annoyed because he didn't read the question. Okay, so with the project narrative, what is this project? You just read the narrative. What is the project? Do we know? We don't know. He talks about it a little bit in the STEM for All. In STEM for All, he talks about indoor growing equipment. I have already scored the question before it in project narrative. And I've already docked some points because I'm not exactly sure what we're talking about. Think like a funder. STEM for All, did he hit the points on STEM for All? Not great. Kind of, I mean, what he said is wonderful, but unfortunately, it's not answering the question very well. How about our student learning outcomes? Test scores. Test scores. And he's going to assess it with what? Test scores. He did get the budget right. He used the right template. He hit the $5,000. If you ask me for $5,000 and you give me a budget for $1,250, what are you going to spend the rest of your money on? How am I going to know? You're going to get disqualified. And I hate to do that because you probably had a really awesome idea. Also, you guys like to accidentally attach blank budgets. Now that one I will send back and say, hey, you accidentally attached a blank budget. We get it a lot. So just be careful. I'll send it back and I'll ask again, but everybody might not. And again, I'd hate for someone to get disqualified for that. All right, we're going to go to number 2. Did they get funded? Let's take a quick look at number 2. You haven't even read it yet. I hear giggling. I see hands going, what? I think we know. Did they get funded? Yes, yes, they got funded. Did they get funded? No, they did not get funded. No. And it's not a bad idea. We like 3D printers. We talked about 3D printers earlier. What is the project here? What are they 3D printing? Where, is it in a class? Is it in a makerspace? Is it for bridges? Is it, what are we 3D printing? How is it STEM for all? Yes, so he vaguely says something about visually impaired. So he does touch on it briefly. And then there's a lot more information about 3D printers. I think we can agree the student learning outcomes and the assessment is equally as vague. Again, we're going to think like a funder. And this is probably a great school that would do wonderful things with a 3D printer. But this is competitive. And I'm using a rubric that has these things on it. And unfortunately, I'm not even quite sure what the project is. It's Mr. Simpson's class. That's the project. That was his creative title. So this one, not so great. The other thing that you wouldn't know on this one, his budget at the bottom, he did not use the template. That is not my template. Now it's okay, it's pretty close. I'm not going to dock him on that one. But sometimes I even get files I can't open. I don't know what that format is. I don't have a Mac. Company won't let me. So if I can't even open it, or if I open it and it's some crazy format that is not the template, again, I got 50 more of these to do. So he did not use the template. All right, number 3. Number 3 is a little bit longer, so let me give you a few more minutes. I don't hear giggling this time. How are we feeling about this one? Yes, they got funded? No, they did not get funded? They got funded. This one got funded. Let's look at this specifically. Our rubric literally, yes, somewhat, no, on these questions. They are point values for yes, somewhat, and no. My reviewers don't know what those are. They don't know what's weighted in what direction. Does the project incorporate design thinking? Yes, it did. 21st century skills? Yes. Enhanced college and career readiness? Community partner? It does. Absolutely. The animal shelter. Interdisciplinary, collaborative across subjects and grades. Yes. We have learning outcomes. We have very good learning outcomes in this one. We have assessment. It's not just test scores. Do they outline how student learning outcomes will be assessed? Yes, somewhat, no. Yes, they do. Does it support concept of STEM for all? It does. They talk about it. They address that question very well. Can the bulk of the purchased items be used more than once? That one is not something that you would necessarily know. That's not something we say on the website, but that's important to us. You get a couple bonus points for that. Yeah. Now the ink, not so much, but the other things, yes. Are they fair and reasonable? I mean, did they say one iPad costs $5,000? No. What looks like to be fair and reasonable. This application got a perfect score. It got a perfect score. Very well written. It was thought out. It was unique. It had a title that wasn't someone's name. This was a really good application. All right, well, that's the end of our game. Oop, hold on. But I want to go back. Hold on, I'm getting there. I want to go back to this. I just want to kind of open it up if we have any questions. Thank you for sticking with me today, guys. This is the first time I've ever done this, and I very much appreciate it. I know we started real low level and worked our way up. Of course, I have a lot of experience with one particular grant. I have also written many, many grants for our organization. Now, that's a little bit different. We are writing grants to the Navy. We are writing grants to, more federal than some of these others, and usually in bigger dollars. But we're still doing the same things. Let me tell you, NSF, when I say read it and read it and read it again, holy moly, it's crazy how many rules there are. They're one of those that has font sizes and heading sizes and very particular difficult forms for budgets. And you make one mistake and you're out. You might have spent months working on that thing. What other things do you guys know about? Probably more specifically in our business foundation giving. What have you guys seen in your communities? I don't need you to give your secrets away if you don't want to, but. The PREDS Foundation grants. Anybody else? So what I have for you, and there'll be, this link here is going to give you that document we just looked at, and then I've included a bunch of other links. There are some lists you can sign up for, and again, you can just Grant Link Summit 23 there in Bitly and grab that and take it home with you. There's some lists you can sign up with that will email you once a week and tell you what's out there. You can specifically say that I want math related. And remember, we need to try to think, if I'm a chemistry teacher, I'm probably not going to go to a math organization to ask for funding. Maybe I am, but I'm going to make sure they tie together before I do that. So this is available for you. What other questions might we have? Yes? Oh, actually, hold on one second. We're going to bring you a mic, and that way our people online can hear you.
One of the odd problems that I have found is that with some grants, they only allow you to apply if you give them your routing number, your bank account number. So for example, you'll get cyber grants, which is done through, Walmart. They will not take you unless you give them that information. Cyber grants will write you the check, and that can go to your school district. However, our chief financial officer has declined allowing us to provide that information. So do you have any advice on that?
So I can tell you why they do that. Because I've had to chase down the W-9s. And it gets very complicated with schools because you have one district with however many schools in that district. And every single one of those schools is using the same EIN. That's your employer identification number. And so writing checks gets very difficult because the IRS says this is Sumner County Schools, but you want the check made out to this school in particular. So that's why they're doing that. I mean, I understand the district's rules as well. I understand why they don't feel comfortable doing that. But I think in that case, it's just, bummer. Honestly, I mean, it is. They both have their rules for very good reasons. I mean, I might try to go and beg and plead to my district because that's, who I know, but yeah, I completely understand. Yeah, W-9s are, as you guys know, any of you that have done anything with us before, W-9s are quite a headache for schools. What else?
I want a statistical answer. Out of 400 grants, how many are disqualified because they didn't pay attention to the details? Just a round number.
Maybe
not going to hold
maybe
you.
25.
Okay,
It's not that many.
Great.
And out of 448 grants, some of them might be duplicates. Like, oops, I didn't realize I'd already hit the submit button and I submitted it again. There might be a few of those in there. It's really not that many. And, if I can, I will try to come back to you and ask, can you especially when it's the accidental blank budget, because we get that all the time. But, there's only so much that we can do. And why? The budget's a pain to submit. So why? Okay. We don't use Excel. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just trying to repeat it for anyone who might be online.
You all use Excel, and our school system does not. So I had to use my husband's company laptop to get Excel on because I didn't have access to it.
Okay. What would be better?
Google. Google Sheets,
Yeah.
because every school system uses that and
So
has access to that.
You can open the template, the Excel template in Google Sheets, right? But it saves it as a different file
It
format.
saves it as a different file.
So if I change it to allow you to upload whatever sheet saves as,
Google Sheets.
would that work?
Oh, yes.
And it will take PDFs as well.
It does, but then you've got 15,000 extra steps trying to get it there to make sure that when you upload it, you're uploading the right
Yeah.
version for Gretchen.
So Excel Online is free. And I don't think Submittable will let you upload that. Okay. So let me tell you part of why this is an issue, and I'm glad you brought it up. So Battelle, I work for Battelle. Battelle Education is a division of the Battelle Memorial Institute. Battelle Memorial Institute is a research and development nonprofit. We run Oak Ridge National Lab. We have Department of Defense contracts. We have a lot of super secret things that we can't talk about. I don't know them because I'm not on that team. But they are doing a lot of top secret government things. And so Google Drive is not allowed on our computers. So if you send me a Google Sheet, I can't open it. So what I need to do is figure out something between the two of us so I can open it or you can say, I don't know, but I'm glad you brought it up, and we'll see what we can do. But that's the biggest issue that I have, and that's the reason we came up with the template, is because I don't have a Mac. I can't open Google Documents. Oftentimes, if you send me a Google link and I'll go to open it on a different laptop, it says I need permission. So now I've got to wait for you to click and let me in. I've got 50 more grants to read. So that's why we have the template. Try to make it as easy as I can on my reviewers so they can look at apples to apples and fairly score. But thank you for bringing that up. Do we have any other questions? Well, thank you for putting up with me today, you guys. I appreciate it. I've never been a teacher, so this is a little nerve-wracking for me, so thank you so much. You can always reach us here, TSIN@battelle.org. I'm browng@battelle.org. I do not mind answering your questions at all. So if you've got a question, email me. If you notice something weird on the website, email me. If there's something that says this grant is blah, 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 and it makes no sense, email me. Let me know. Let me fix it. Okay? Thank you.